Hello, everyone. Welcome to Need Laborers. We've got some, a review of the Pathways to Landscaping Careers pilot program. I'm Jen Myers, Director of Workforce Development for NALP, and I'll be your presenter today. This webinar is hosted by the National Association of Landscape Professionals. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. First, we encourage you to use the chat panel located in the bottom right-hand corner of the control panel on your screen. To ask a question, click on the chat box and type in your request. Then click the Send Privately box and direct your questions to Courtney Lawler. We will answer your questions towards the end of the webinar. If we run out of time, we will follow up with you via email. All telephone lines are on mute for this call. This webinar is being recorded. If you are a member of the National Association of Landscape Professionals, you may access it online in the Member Center section starting next week. As we discussed today, we're going to talk about the Pathways to Landscaping Careers pilot program. Here's our agenda. First, we'll start with an overview of the pilot program, then an overview of the CORE network. We will talk about what COREs are and what they do. We will review the application process, some common questions, and then finally, we will wrap up with a Q&A discussion. As I mentioned, I'm Jen Myers, Director of Workforce Development for NALP. Our Pathways to Landscaping Careers, the new pilot program will provide an opportunity for lawn and landscape companies to hire young adults, generally the ages of 18 to 25, and veterans up to age 35 for internships or full-time employment. These CORE members, many of whom will have landscape experience, will be matched with companies in several metro areas throughout the U.S. Companies utilizing NALP's new Landscape Management Apprenticeship Program may choose to enroll qualified CORE members in this program upon hire. However, this is not a requirement to be involved with the pilot program. This pilot program is powered by NALP's Industry Growth Initiative. So what is the CORE network? It was established in 1985 as the National Association of Service and Conservation Corps. They have over 130 corps across the nation, and they provide young adults and post-9/11 veterans the opportunity to serve the country through projects on public lands and in rural and urban communities. The CORE network supports CORE by advocating on their behalf, providing access to funding and project opportunities, and by offering expertise in CORE operations and programming. So the 130 CORE that are part of the network are individual COREs, but they all roll up under the CORE network collectively. Each year, the CORE network's efforts enable over 25,000 diverse young people and recent veterans to strengthen communities, improve the environment, and transform their lives through service and CORE programs. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the CORE network. The modern COREs descend from the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, which many of you may be familiar with from history class, a Great Depression-era federal work relief program that mobilized 3 million young men to dramatically improve the nation's public lands. Those CORE members received food, shelter, an education, and a $30 a month stipend. From 1933 to 1942, the CCC planted 3 billion trees and helped build trails, roads, campgrounds, and other park infrastructure that is still in use today. So they've had some variations over the years, but today, unlike the CCC, which is a large federal program, most of our modern COREs are nonprofits or operated by units of state or local government. And later in today's presentation, I'm going to talk about one in particular and give you some details about them as an example. Through public-private partnerships, COREs work with a range of organizations, companies, government agencies, and institutions to engage CORE members in meaningful projects that address local and national issues. So what are COREs? COREs are locally based organizations that engage young adults, ages 16 to 25, and veterans up to age 35 in service projects that address recreation, conservation, disaster response, and community needs. And as you may have noticed from the first few slides with our pilot program, we are basically targeting those same age ranges with our program. Through a term of service that could last from a few months to a year, these core participants or core members gain work experience and develop in-demand skills. Now that term of service, like it says here, a few months to a year, the individuals that I've spoken with have had anywhere from a 300-hour commitment to a 1,700-hour commitment. Sometimes they go through a shorter one and then move on to a full-time job and career. Other times they will start with a shorter term of service and then come back and do a longer term of service. Some will go straight towards that longer term of service. It's really quite a variety of opportunities that are offered. And it also varies between the different types of service that they're doing. So what are cores? Core members are compensated, or the continuing, what are cores? Core members are compensated with a stipend or living allowance, and they often receive an education award or scholarship upon completion of their service. And continuing on, the cores provide participants educational programming, mentoring, and access to career and personal counseling, which can include financial counseling, interviewing skills, any type of help or counseling that would help them with transitioning into a full-time career position. Some cores operate or partner with charter schools to help participants earn their high school diploma or GED. So who serves in cores? So this can be just about anybody between the ages of 16 and 25, or for veterans up to age 35. All sorts of young people serve in cores, representing different abilities, life circumstances, and different ethnic, cultural, and socioeconomic backgrounds. And you can see here in the diagram to the right a breakdown of the core members from 2018. So just over 24,000 and about 56% male, 43% female, and a breakdown of race and ethnicity below that. So what types of projects do cores complete? It varies based on where the core is located. Some cores complete projects in remote wilderness areas or rural communities, while other cores serve in places like New York City and Los Angeles. Depending on the needs of the local community, projects could include building and restoring trails, removing invasive species and restoring habitats, conducting prescribed burns and fighting wildfires, preserving historic structures, installing fencing and other park infrastructure, planting trees, reclaiming abandoned lots, operating farms and gardens, landscaping and xeriscaping, weatherizing low-income homes, removing graffiti, restoring streams, and much, much more. And the types of work that are done by different cores varies not only where they're located, but also based on the types of programs that they have available for the students that have joined the core to be involved with. So here's some numbers from fiscal year 18. 31 million pounds of waste collected or recycled, almost 2 million square feet of graffiti removed, over 1 million trees planted, and almost 14,000 miles of trails constructed or improved. So let's talk about our pilot program and how that is going to tie in with the core network and their 130 cores. So upon completion of their core service, many core members will seek full-time employment. We want landscaping to be their field of choice. While some core offer a landscaping option, others do not. So an internship with an industry contractor may provide work experience otherwise not available to core members. So these are our options. The full-time employment would be somebody that has completed their core experience. They may have done 300 hours or 1,700 hours or both back to back, and they are ready to move into a full-time position. We want them to come to our industry. These folks may have worked directly in landscaping work while with the core. They may have worked in national parks, building trails. Any person that has any interest in working outside, we want them to come to our industry for their full-time position. And as I mentioned earlier, if you offer the landscape management apprenticeship program, these would be great candidates to move into that program when they come on board at your company. But it is not a requirement to have the Landscape Management Apprenticeship Program to be eligible for the Pathways to Landscaping Careers pilot program. We also have temporary employment available, typically through an internship program. This may be for, you may have a Corps that offers a landscaping program, and a Corps member has been through that, but they want to then go work for a contractor, so they could complete an internship with a contractor. Then you may have Corps members that work with a Corps that does not have landscaping for an option, but they still want to get experience with landscaping. Then you could provide an internship program for those folks. I mean, really, anyone that's interested in landscaping, we want to have an available path for them to get into our industry, whether it's full-time or temporary. And priority for partnership programs will be given to IGI investors, as IGI investors are the ones that are funding this program. Corps members will be actively supported by their Corps even after employment with a landscape contractor is secured. And this includes mentoring, access to career and personal counseling, and workforce-related supportive services. And as I mentioned earlier, this is anything from interviewing skills to financial education and training and personal finances to how to work with a coworker that you may not agree with, to really anything that a person that's entering the full-time workforce could potentially encounter during that path. That the Corps will be there for them to provide that support. And for some Corps members, they need very little. They move into those full-time jobs and they're kind of off and running, and they get the support they need from their new employer. Other folks, they do need a little more support from their Corps even after they've transitioned out. And the great thing about the Corps is that if they want it, it's there. So one example I want to talk about with a local Corps is Civic Works in Baltimore, Maryland. So I live just outside of Baltimore. I traveled up to Civic Works about a month ago to meet with the team there. And on the next slide, you'll see that Civic Works does more than just landscaping, but I was there particularly to meet with their community lot team. And so their Civic Works community lot team transforms vacant and abandoned lots in Baltimore City into community gardens and green spaces. Corps members, community residents, local artists, and volunteer groups work together to create and maintain thriving community spaces. And the Corps experience here at Civic Works for the community lot team includes on-the-job training as well as classroom instruction. And there's some pictures here from some projects that they have been working on. And we went and looked at a couple projects while I was there. We visited with the team at headquarters and were able to see where they do their educational component in the classroom. And then we went out to an active job site to meet with some Corps members that were currently working. And these Corps members we work with were from the community, born and raised in Baltimore, had interest in landscaping, so joined this program. And the job site that we went to that day, they had a combination of landscaping features. They had some hardscape there. They had perennial and annual plantings. They had trees that were staked and wired. They had some art components, which is prevalent in these projects that they will do. You can see this kind of whiteboard back here in this picture, which is put to be able to hang artwork from local artisans throughout the year. These jobs also had this job had some raised beds, and they had some places, some picnic tables and other places where you could sit and enjoy the gardens. And I think what was really interesting about the project I saw was it was in a neighborhood that has a lot of people that are not working and spend their days out in the street or in parking lots or in other spaces. And when this project started, it was a parking lot with gardens or kind of lot around it. And it was just full of garbage, and there was just grasses and weeds and, nothing much to look at. And, the way these projects get started is the local community within an area, typically led by, pastor or other community leader, will go to the to City of Baltimore and say, you know, we need some funds to be able to fix up these gardens. And so they get the approval for the funds, and then they will go to Civic Works and say, community lot team, and say, can you help us with this project? And they want to be able to have folks in the community working on this community project. So these, the folks, the core members from Civic Works go out and meet with the community and find out exactly what they want to do in the space. And the feedback I got is everything I just listed. And so they had made a plan for that, and they've been working to, you know, put it all in. And they, when I was there, they were just finishing up the project. I think what was interesting was, you know, they started the project by just clearing out lots and lots of garbage. And even when they would come day after day to work on the project and start installing the plants and the turf, they would continue to have garbage, and they would still have to clean up the garbage. And there were people, you know, sitting in the garden every day, leaving their garbage. And what they found as they progressed through the installation of this project is the garbage started to move from all over the ground and in the landscape into garbage bags. And so now when they go out, that, you know, the garbage is there, but it's in garbage bags and it's cleaned up. And I think for those, the young men that I met that are the core members, they said not only did they love working with their hands and being outside and walking away at the end of the day and seeing a finished project in stages, you know, for them, they really got to see the emotional impact that landscaping can have on individuals. And they said, you know, these folks may not even realize it, but, you know, the reason that they're now putting their garbage in bags and taking better care of the space is because it's professionally landscaped. And it's a powerful moment for those of us that were hearing about, but I think also for, like I said, these young men that realize that, you know, there's so much more to landscaping than, you know, just putting these plants in the ground. You know, they're definitely impacting the local community where we live, work, and play. So Civic Works, they do have other fields of study, including brownfield remediation, weatherization, solar. They have a CSA that they run, and also summer programs for local youth. You can see over here on to the right the flyer that highlights some of that. Depending on the career pathway, trainees may earn industry-recognized certifications and preparation for future apprenticeship programs. And that really just depends on what they're studying or what program they're involved with. And all core members will learn employability skills and receive case management, which we talked about just a bit ago. So getting back to our pilot program, so we have selected some pilot cities for fall 2019, spring 2020, and they are listed here. Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Maryland, Denver, Colorado, Gulfport, Mississippi, Los Angeles, California, New York City, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Phillipsburg, New Jersey, Sacramento, California, St. Paul, Minnesota, and Stockton, California. Now, we did select these, but you'll see at the bottom, and if you have looked at the application online, you've seen this as well. Don't see your city listed. Tell us where you'd like to see the program offered. As I've mentioned a few times, there are over 130 cores throughout the country, and we selected these cities because these programs have a landscaping field of study already in place at their core, but there are many more possibilities out there, others that do offer a landscape program, and then others that have students that are interested in careers in landscaping and the outdoors. They just might not have a formal program for that at their core. So on the application, there is a place under the list of cities where it says other, and please fill out the name of your city or your metro area and send that into us with your application. And that is what is going to drive the rollout of the next cities that we'll put through this program. Now, even though these are the pilot cities, if we have, for example, if we have 2 or 3, companies send in applications, or even one company an application from, Columbus, Ohio, and there's an interest there, I will take and share that, or we will take and share that with the core network and determine if we have any individuals available in that area. We do not need to wait until we formally add more cities to this list. This was just our starting point. So please don't hesitate to send in an application and list your city or metro area on that application. So let's talk about the steps. So number one, interested companies should complete the application and return to NALP. And you can find this program on our website. If you go to landscapeprofessionals.org and click careers, not the drop down, but just the word careers, then you will see then a box that says, it has a photo and says Pathways to Landscaping Careers. And from there, you can see our flyer as well as the application. Step two, we will generate a total number of employees per city with a breakdown between internship and full-time positions, and send company information in the application and employee numbers to the core network for review. And I will work through that process with them. The core network will communicate with their local core, over 130 as we've mentioned, to secure those candidates. And then NALP and the core network will schedule and complete calls with selected employers. So here are some common questions for the program. What are the starting dates for the pilot program? So we have listed on there fall 2019 and spring 2020. The reality is the starting dates are whenever the folks are available. And as these folks are joining these programs at all times of the year and they're finishing at all times of the year, the starting dates are all times of the year. So really, we depend on you in the application to let us know when you would be able to bring folks on board. And then if we know that, then we, in communicating with the core network and then by extension their local cores, they can determine who would be eligible or a good candidate for your company. Will the pilot, sorry for the typo, will the pilot program be offered in additional cities and when? I mentioned this just a bit ago. Yes, we hope to offer it in additional cities. We've seen a lot of interest from cities not in our list of initial cities. So please continue to send in applications and list your city or metro area under other so we know that you have an interest. And then what type of experience will potential employees have? And this is what type of landscape experience. This is going to vary as well. There was an individual I met at Civic Works, and he had done a 300-hour community lot core experience. And it was great, but he wanted to try something else. He went into retail and then quickly found that that was not his favorite or the right home for him. So he then came back to Civic Works and to the community lot program and is now finishing up his 1,700-hour experience. So he's going to have 2,000 hours of landscape experience when he leaves, which is roughly equal to about a full year of experience. And coincidentally, that 2,000 hours is the same amount of time that is needed for on-the-job training for our landscape management apprenticeship program. So after 2,000 hours, somebody is pretty well-versed. This individual I met with also has a driver's license and acts as a driver for that community lot team, as they have their headquarters in one part of the city and they do projects in another part of the city. And they need to transport people as well as plant material and other materials for their job sites. So, but then you'll have folks that will, have very little experience that maybe did a 300-hour program or something similar. But for the most part, any folks that are going to be applicants for this program are going to have some type of landscape experience. They know that they do have an interest in this industry and have spent some time doing so. So more information, I encourage you to learn more about CORES and the CORE Network on their website, which is www.corenetwork.org. And then any questions about the pilot program or any application submissions should be sent to me at Jen with 2 N's at landscapeprofessionals.org. Now we're going to look and see if we have any questions. We don't have any right now, so if you have any questions, please send them in. We are happy to answer them. And if you have any questions about what we covered today that come up later after we're done this, then you can feel free to email them to me, and I'm happy to help you with that. And then this webinar will be posted on our website next week, so you can go back and rewatch. So we have a question. Is there a deadline to apply? We do not have a deadline. It is really a rolling deadline, if anything, because the folks that are available are always rolling through. You know, we always have folks that are starting their core experience and ending their core experience. And so, you know, at any given time, there could be somebody available. So, you know, please don't hesitate to let us know. And, you know, I think ultimately our goal is to get to the point where we help bridge the gap with our members and these local cores and have them really create a pipeline of folks that will go directly from the core to our landscape, to our members. So we have another question: where are the core members primarily from, urban, suburban, or rural? It is a mix of all. It really depends on the core. So Civic Works in Baltimore is all very much urban. Most all the participants are from the city, and the projects they do are all in and around the city. Whereas you'll have some cores out in Colorado, for instance, that they are up in you know, the mountains, helping to, you know, blaze and rehab trails and national parks. And then you have cores that are out in California that are doing rehabilitation and cleanup from wildfires. And then you'll have other cores that are more suburban as well. So I think it's really a mix of all of those. So the next question we have is, what if the assigned core person is not able to perform their duties? What is the responsibility of the employer? Is there any kind of probationary period? So this is a great question. So core members, when they're part of the core, when they first come to the core and before they go into any type of field or as they're entering those fields of study, they review with them the need to be on time, have good attendance, wear your uniform, et cetera, et cetera. And they treat it very much like a job, like a full-time position. They are responsible or accountable to the core while they are a core member. Once they have finished their experience in the core and they are hired by a landscape contractor, they are then like any other employee that you would have. If you hire them on and they are unable to perform their duties, you would terminate them just like you would any other employee. If you have a probationary period for your other employees that are not former core members, you know, I would think you would put them through that same probationary period. The only difference is that these folks do have the option to have that relationship existing with their caseworker or individual at the core to help them with kind of these, you know, wraparound services if necessary. And, you know, for a lot of folks that require these services and this help is because they don't have that from their family or, you know, friends. And so they're looking to these mentors and caseworkers at the core to help them through that as they're transitioning. But the person would be hired on your staff just like any other person. They will be set up in your system like any other person and paid like any other employee, and can be, if needed, terminated like any other employee. So here's the next question. What is the time schedule from start to finish for the application process through approval? So that's a great question. So right now it's taking a little longer because we're just rolling out. So I have a couple applications that came in a few weeks ago, but I sent our first batch over to the core network yesterday. So the first few applications that we had in have been sent to them, and they're reviewing, and we're going to, you know, hopeful to start those conversations with the local cores very soon. As we continue to get in the applications, we will continue to send them over and then have it roll through. And I think the more interest we have, the quicker it will go, because we'd rather not send one application at a time over the core network. We'd rather send them in groups, but we are not waiting until we get them all in before we send them over. We want to keep the ball rolling. Next question was, how much interest are we getting from NALP members? So as of today, I've had about 30 companies reach out, and ask about this program. And then I've had, I'd say about 20% of those send in applications or have said they're going to send in an application. And, you know, we did our first, our IGI investors did know first about the program since they are the ones that help fund it. And then we did our first rollout to all members on Saturday morning. So we're just a few days past that. So I'm hopeful from that and then from the webinar today that we will continue to have interest from our members. I think the members that I've talked to, I've had emails, phone conversations, are very excited about the potential and possibility of this program. And, you know, when I did go to CivicWorks to meet with them, I met with the executive director of that core, and then also the executive director of the core network came up from DC to meet with us as well. And they're very excited about this, the potential of this program and offering this opportunity to all of their cores, and very excited about the tie-in with our apprenticeship program. So the next question is, if competing market companies in the same area, how will the selection of core members be selected? Currently, the first dibs would go to any IGI investors, again, because they're funding the program. Other than that, it is, first, it's going to be based on the needs of the company. So we'll try to match the core members that are coming out and are available with the job opportunities at the different companies based on service. So if we have somebody that's looking for someone to work on their, you know, installation team, and we have a core member who would prefer to do installation over maintenance, and that would be the natural choice there. I think if we have the same folks competing for the same positions, it would be IGI first, and then next would be first come, first serve. So as those applications come in, those folks would have first dibs. I also think that this is something that we will evolve over time as we see how many of our members are interested and do submit applications, and then also see how many, you know, the interest that we get from these cores in placing their folks with us. So we have another question here. If there are states without any core network presence, is it still possible to hire core members in those states? Yes, and that's why we want to have you send in an application and let us know if you're in an area that's not listed as one of the 12 companies in the pilot program, because there is a possibility that there are core in the area, or even if there aren't, there may be someone that's in a core in another city that has family in your location and is willing to head down that way, or wants to relocate, or, you know, however that may work. Yeah, and we, you know, the feedback I got from the core network was, you know, they always want to know of any opportunities available, because there's always folks that are interested. And, you know, I have someone I know in my family through my sister-in-law. She graduated high school. She is, I don't know if she's college bound or not. She's still trying to decide what she wants to study, but she's taking a gap year, and she just signed on with a core in Colorado. And it was kind of fortuitous timing, because part of this program I didn't have a lot of experience with cores or folks involved with them. So, you know, she's from a suburban area in Maryland, and has just, you know, likes being outdoors, but has not traveled very much. So she's headed to Colorado to help. I think she's working in a state park out there for the summer, and through, you know, the core out there, and is going to see how that goes. But, you know, she might end up loving it and might end up staying in Colorado. But I think, you know, that's to be seen. But I think, you know, like I said, if you are interested in hiring anybody from any of these programs in the future, I think it's worth it to send in an application and let us know, and the core network know of your interest, even if there's not core network presence in your state. Any other questions? And those were some great questions. Thank you so much to everybody that submitted a question or questions. So we have one final slide here. As I mentioned, this pilot program is powered by the NALP's Industry Growth Initiative. IGI is leading the landscape industry's response to the Workforce Challenge. To support the IGI, please visit www.givetoigi.org. I'm sure you've heard about IGI, and this, these programs that are powered by IGI, the money for those comes from people you know, other NALP members that are donating money to IGI because they know how important it is to tackle and solve this workforce challenge. And if you want more information about it, you can go to this website or contact me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. And again, as an investor for these types of programs, we definitely, will always try to give the ability for those folks to jump in first and, lead the charge and reap the benefits of anything that comes about. So thank you for joining us today. In order to improve our future webinars, please take a few moments to fill out our evaluation, which will appear on your screen at the end of this call. We appreciate your feedback. I'd like to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar and hope you have a great rest of your day.